everybody to our pre-health office talk with Dr. Klausmeyer. Today, we're going to be talking about undergraduate research for pre-health students here at Baylor University. We do have a QR code available, so if you're needing to get credit for your student organizations, you can go ahead and sign in there. My name is Mindy Calvillo, and I am an advisor in the Prehealth Studies Office. If you have any questions after the presentation, or if you just have general questions about going pre-med or any of our other designations, you can email me or send an email to our general email at prehealth@baylor.edu. And I have the pleasure today of talking to Dr. Klausmeyer. She is the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research here at Baylor University. If you do have questions, I've got her email here as well. So welcome, Dr. Klausmeyer. I'm very excited to talk to you today. We'll go ahead and get started. So right off the bat, what kind of research can you do as an undergraduate student?
Oh, there's many different types of research. The main research, if we're talking about pre-meds, of course, those are science students, would be bench research, which is joining one of the research labs at the BSB or with a science professor. And that one you would be doing basic research, which can be anything, and you can do it in any of the science departments that we have. It can also be a summer internship, which we're going to talk, hopefully we'll talk a little bit about them, but they're in the summer, they're immersive, and you get a little bit of money for you. You could also do some research with the arts and humanities professor, perhaps helping them writing a book or do a review that they have to write. Or maybe if you are actually lucky and your interests lie in the same area as that professor, maybe you can just hook up your interest and you end up with your own project. So that's just an example of the few things that you can do in research.
Excellent. So you've already kind of spoken about the summer research opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Well, yes. So summer research, as the name implies, is research that you do in the summer, and we have different types of research. I'm going to start with what we do at Baylor with the Prehealth Office. So the Prehealth Office has several summer internships that we do for the students. Unfortunately, none of them are paid, but they give you enough experience and you can get a project out of it. So for example, we have our most important one, in my opinion, is our collaboration with the National School of Tropical Medicine in Houston. And that one we have is called T-DRIP. So, oh dear, okay, T-DRIP. Tropical Diseases Research Internship Program. It's kind of hard. We spend so much time trying to find something that sounds good. So T-DRIP is, you go to Baylor College of Medicine with the School of National School of Tropical Medicine there, and you help them develop the vaccines for diseases that are what they call forgotten diseases. But you are in a lab, which is an incredible lab, honestly, top of the line research lab with postdocs and professors and doctors that come from all around the world. And you will be just doing, I mean, it's amazing what they do. So again, they're trying to develop vaccines for diseases, and you're going to be there with the professors. You're going to be interacting with all, they have the SMART program at BCM, and the students that do T-DRIP, they go to the same seminars as the students that do SMART at BCM. So that is particularly for students that are interested in tropical medicine, of course, and their biology or biochemistry or chemistry. We have Be True, which actually started in collaboration with the Prehealth Office, and that one is at Baylor, and it's 10 weeks that you get to do research with any of the professors in the science departments. So any of the professors, you can actually do research with them. That one pays a little bit, not much. It's $3,000, but it goes through the whole summer, and we have a lot of fun with that one. We also have two that unfortunately have suffered a little bit since COVID came around. So they are on hold. One is at the Hillcrest Hospital, which is just down I-35. And that one is not full-time, it's part-time. So if you needed to take a class during the summer, you can do it. Dr. Sanker is trying to bring it back so bad. He's doing his best, but again, we don't know how COVID is going to end up in the summer. The other one is the Chief Medical Officer. And that one is for students that are kind of interested in how the hospitals work, not so much in the medicine itself, but the administration of the hospital. So CMO, of course, is Chief Medical Officer, and you would be kind of shadowing the chief medical officers and the financial officers and the upper, anything that has a C and an O at the end. So you will be able to shadow them. And that one, Dr. Sanker has been able to kind of transition it online so that students still get that experience. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, it will be face-to-face this coming summer, but we're not really sure about it yet again. But if anything, we'll just put it online. So those are the ones with the pre-health office. And then, of course, you have all the different summer internships going in around the country. And if the students are interested, they can go to the AAMC. And there they have a list of all the summer internships at all the different hospitals and universities that have a medical school associated with them.
Very cool. That's a lot of very awesome opportunities this summer.
Yeah.
So you had also mentioned the VA Center of Excellence Research Program, or VA CERT, and their year-long internship program. Who would be a good candidate for this, and how do they get involved?
Okay, excellent. That is a really good internship. Like you said, it's year-round, so you have to treat it like a really big commitment. Treat it like a class that you have to take for a whole year. So we do have the VA hospital here in Waco, and they have the Center for Excellence in Research, CERP, and they take anywhere between 5 to 10 students. It has varied depending on how many of their researchers want to host a student for the year. That one, when we started, it was kind of geared to psychology and neuroscience majors, and it still is. But if we don't have psychology and neuroscience majors that apply, then we will just try to get the best fit among our other science majors as well. For that one, you need a minimum GPA of 3.0. And we also would prefer people that have taken statistics, because a lot of the work that you're going to be doing is looking at numbers and gathering data. So we have noticed that the students that have statistics, they tend to enjoy it more. So those are the two requirements for it. If you're interested in a traumatic brain injury or PTSD, that's their main concern. That's what they spend most of their time researching there. So it's a fantastic opportunity. Again, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's 10 hours per week. So you kind of treat it as a class, and you go perhaps 3 times a week. I don't know, 3 hours, that gets you 9, and then an extra hour that they want you to write everything that you have learned and that you have seen per week. But it's an incredible opportunity, and the projects that they come with are always presented at the Scholars Week here in Waco in April, and they're incredible. They're really interesting what they're doing in terms of research at the VA.
Well, that's great. So you've talked a lot about lab research. If someone doesn't feel drawn to lab research, what are their other options?
anything, good Lord. And yes, I know that the moment you say research, you picture a person with a lab coat and possibly oily hair. I don't know why that is, but we have so many other departments and so many other professors doing research in the arts and humanities. And for example, we had a student that his minor was in Russian. So what he did is that he did a study of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in Russia. And that was a fantastic way of kind of joining his interest in medicine with a minor. So I think that's always the one that comes to mind because I found that so interesting. But if you go to the list of professors of the arts and humanities and try to find one that you really like what they're doing, and maybe what they're doing is connected to, I'm sorry that I am just taking so much time explaining this. If your interest actually kind of follows what they're doing, you may be able to either help them in what they're doing or perhaps do your own project of what interests you in particular about that topic.
So you don't have to be in a specific major to work with any department.
Absolutely not. The main point is that you need to be interested in what you're doing, because once there's that interest, you will put a little bit of effort into it. If you're completely disconnected with what you're doing, then stop doing it, because it's not going to help you to get into medical school if you're not enjoying it and you don't show a passion for it. Because chances are they're going to ask you about this in your interview. It's like, oh, I see you did research. Tell me about your research. And you're like, I hated it. That is really not going to help you at all.
I always tell students, if you don't light up when you talk about it, let's try something different.
Exactly. They have to see the passion there.
Excellent. So why should students get involved in research?
There are so many reasons to get involved in research, and it's not that you have to be involved in research. You can still get into medical school without research. Is that research gives you like a little bit of an edge. There are things that you learn through research that have nothing to do with the science or the project that you're doing. One of the first things that you learn is the written and oral etiquette. So how to write an email to a professor, how to communicate properly with a person that's in a higher spot than you, and you have to be really respectful with them. You learn teamwork. You learn to think outside of the box, because sometimes they tell you what you're going to do, you're hoping that it works, and then it doesn't work. And you have to come up with an explanation of why it didn't work. Did I say teamwork already? Because again, you're working in a group. You're not having your own project. The project that you're doing is related to a project that somebody else is also contributing in. So you have to be able to manage nicely the responsibilities. But I have also found that the main thing that students learn through research is time management. Because remember that you're doing research, you're taking classes, and there's going to be weeks in which you have an exam and you have to get this done, and you have to organize your life. And then if you want to have a social life, that adds another layer. It's a problem. Just say no to social life. Just quit it.
It'll prepare you for long-term life.
Exactly.
So when should students get involved in research?
All right. So I am the director of the Science Research Fellows. And when we decided that we were going to create this major for undergraduates that are interested in research, I put my foot down and I said they cannot be involved their freshman year. And it's because when you join a research project, whether it's in the arts or it's in the sciences, it really doesn't make a difference. You have to do, this is corny, you have to do your research. to join research. You have to find something that you're interested in. You have to look at what the professors are doing, not only in your major, but what other professors at Baylor are doing. There's a professor in political science that he is doing cybersecurity. And I think that is incredible. And I would have done that. I would have jumped on that if I was an undergrad, even though my major was chemistry. But if you actually just take your time and you see a good amount of what is happening around Baylor, then you're more likely to just join a lab and join a project and stay in that project for the long run. What we're trying to avoid is you hustling to join a research lab or a research professor, and then realizing rather quickly that this is not what you're interested in, because then you're going to drop it, and that professor may or may not take more undergraduates. That will be a disappointment for the professor, and that will again be a little stain on the pre-health community. So do your homework, find several topics that you like, see where the research in that topic is happening, and then talk to those professors. Take your time to talk to the professors, talk to the graduate students they have, if they have any. Talk to other undergraduates that are doing research as well. Maybe they have a good tip on hey, this is really interested and they're looking for people. But take your time. Your freshman year is to go to tailgates, to games, and to enjoy yourself before you advance on. And then that's when organic chemistry and genetics happen.
Don't scare them too soon.
Exactly. Just calm down, sit down, and let's give a talk.
So ideally, how long should you do research?
Well, for at least 1 year. Do not join a research project if you're just interested in one semester. And research is not a check mark that you do and then you forget about it. There are reasons that you're trying to get research into your resume. And it's not, again, it's not just that you put something on your resume. You create a relationship with that professor. And that professor may write a letter of recommendation for you. So at least 1 year, ideally, until you graduate. If you start your sophomore year, maybe 2 to 3 years. If you start your junior year, for sure, start of junior year until you graduate. If you're a senior, it's going to be difficult to join a research project because again, they're thinking this person's only going to be here for a year and then they're going to go. And I'm going to spend 1 semester training them and then they're graduating. So minimum 1 year, ideally 2 to 3.
Excellent. And I know we've already mentioned that you don't have to have research to get into medical school, but is there specific research that medical schools are looking for?
No, like I said, the medical schools want you to be passionate about whatever research you're doing, but they're also more interested in that teamwork and that time management and that thinking outside the box, creative solutions, and all the other little things that come with research without you even noticing that you're getting them.
Excellent. What should students expect when doing research? What is the kind of time commitment that they're going to be dedicating each week?
All right. Well, it depends on the week of the semester, of course. I would expect in a normal week, anywhere, the minimum commitment would be around maybe 6 hours per week. It can go to many more hours depending on if you're taking it for credit. And we do have research credit that we offer, but it's no use going once into your research and doing maybe 6 hours on the same day. That is not helpful at all. But if you actually just do maybe 2 hours, 3 days a week, that is a little bit better because then you get more exposure to what's happening in that place 3 times a week. I would recommend around 10 hours per week. Again, there's going to be times in which you have 1 or 2 exams, and the professors know this. They know that your academics are more important. So they expect you to not go into lab that many hours. Still go, I mean, show up, for crying out loud. But they don't expect you to just spend your whole time in the lab if you have exams. But whenever you have time, maybe a couple extra hours. So it is a big commitment. And I want you to treat it seriously and schedule it as if it was a class. So, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I will go to lab from this time to this time, and I will focus all my energy in that research.
Excellent. So you had mentioned getting credit. So you can enroll in a class for research, but do you have to?
You do not have to. It all depends on the professor. So there are classes, as long as you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, all the departments have research classes. So they give you research credit, and it's what we call variable credit. So for example, Bio 3V9R. The R at the end stands for research, and it will show up in your transcript as research. So that's one thing that is incredible. I mean, that your transcripts say that you have done research. But the variable, the V, means that you can take that class anywhere from 0 credits to 3 credits. 0 credits would be for a person that is trying out a lab for the first time and doesn't really want to do the heck of a lot. And then after that, every credit, I would say, depending on the professor, again, this is not up to me, this is up to the professor. For every credit hour, it would be anywhere between 3 to 5 hours per week in lab. So if you're taking it for 1 credit, maybe 3 hours in lab per week. But if you're taking it for 3 credits, now that's when your 9 to 10 hours come in.
Excellent. Can students be published for the research that they do as undergraduate students?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I was clear.
Can students be published for the research they do as undergraduate students?
You know, Baylor professors are very good at actually including their undergraduates in anything that they do. A publication is not an expectation for an undergraduate student anyway. So you shouldn't go into a lab with the thinking, I'm going to get my name on a paper. Perhaps get your name on a poster presentation. That is actually more feasible than in a publication. For a publication, you have to work hard. It's not like they're going to put your name on a paper that they're writing because you happen to be in the lab. No, it is because that the people that go into the publication have done a significant amount of work for that project. So it is not an expectation for an undergraduate to be published. It is something that if it happens, we will celebrate it, but we're not expecting it. A poster session is something that it's more doable. It's more reachable for a student.
Excellent. And my last question, can students work with more than one professor on research projects, or should they work with one professor during their time at Baylor?
All right, that's a great question. I have gotten questions from students that want to be, oh, but I like this and I like this. All right, look, there's not that many positions in research. Pick one and do a good job. Concentrate all your effort into that project and leave a good impression with that professor and the graduate students. If you're doing 2 different research projects with 2 different professors, it's diluting your work. It's diluting your potential. You're going to be, at some point, one of those projects is not going to get your full attention, and that's not fair to you, and that's not fair to the professor. Perhaps you won't be putting any effort into either one of them because you're overwhelmed. So pick one project and do the best work that you've done. I mean, just throw yourself into that research.
Excellent. Well, that is all the official questions I have for you today in regards to undergraduate research. Is there any other sage advice that you want to pass on to our students in regards to research?
Yes. If you're not really interested in research, don't do it. Again, like we said before, you can get into medical school without research. Do more volunteering, do more shadowing, and remember that the research doesn't have to be in a lab. Some people are just not made to be in a lab. It's kind of, I have done it and I like it, but to some people it's tedious work and it's just a stumbling block for them. So if you're not really interested in science research, see if you can do any other type of project. Maybe a literature review is a good place to start. That way you get to do research and study something that you really enjoy. Medical schools, again, are not going to judge you by, oh my gosh, this person did cancer research, so we need to accept them. No, it's about the passion that you show for what you did. It's about how well you can explain what you did. So it's not just about that check mark that people are looking for. So see if you can, if you can just do a little bit of a literature review to see if you really like it. The other thing that Dr. Sanker is doing, and this is new this year, is that the students' organizations, pardon me, the student organizations are getting a little bit more involved in research, and they're planning to have a research committee and come up with a research project. And I think that's a fabulous way of getting into research and seeing if you like it or not. So I do applaud that, and I do recommend that if you want to see if you're interested in research, check that out.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of the advice and for your time today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you once again, Dr. Klausmeyer.
And thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.